Dougal, it's another successful Alpha conference, and I guess there's always the challenge to come up with new ideas and new subjects, and it's always an ongoing challenge, I guess. This year seems to be even better and better they get better and better. What have been the highlights for you?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. And I have to admit, it is a challenge to come up with new and interesting and novel programs every time. And I have to admit, the program we saw initially when we worked on it earlier this year in January is significantly different. And even 6 weeks ago, we were making changes to it. Some of the highlights for me, I think, for one, David Thomas, I think, really started off the conference really well with his story about China. Some of the trends, challenges, and opportunities in that fantastic market that's there. In the afternoon, I think Mick Keogh did a really interesting presentation about some of the agri-political structures overseas and in Australia, and the R&D structures that follow them. The panel session that followed that was also quite interesting, and some of the things that I looked at not only from a broader Australian agriculture perspective, but the beef industry, and that's very topical at present, particularly on the grass-fed side. In the afternoon following that, Andrew Forrest, of course, I think was an excellent and engaging interview about some of his thoughts and synergies with the iron ore side of his business, and the opportunities again overseas. The purchase of Harvey Beef over in WA is going to have a major paradigm shift, I believe, in that industry over there, and what it does in terms of previously its domestic focus and hopefully a future export focus. And that was quite an interesting and informative and engaging discussion. I think today, the antibiotics presentations from both Peter Collignon and Stephen Page, I think is probably a challenging and topical discussion. It's only going to become more so, I think, over the next couple of years. Very integral to what we do as a sector, and something that we have to work, proactively on into the future.
I think what's coming through loud and clear is food security, quality of product, and the perception of how well we treat animals. I guess Alpha and the feedlotters are certainly in the forefront of that, but obviously we have to still maintain a really close watch on ourselves. Yeah,
those themes are not new. They've been around for decades now, and we've been cognizant of that. We've got to ensure that we get those things right. I think from an Australia Inc. point of view, and probably from the feedlot industry's point of view, we really need to ensure, as Jason Strong said, that we get our quality assurance systems right, we get our industry programs right, and we try ensure that we get those messages right as an industry. Because if you don't communicate with the general public about what you're doing, not only on the strengths as an industry, but also on your weaknesses, then I think you're setting yourself up and being more exposed and vulnerable. So absolutely, I totally agree.
And what do you think the next 3 or 4 years is going to hold for the feedlotting industry? Is there anything on the horizon as a particular challenge that you are conscious of?
Well, your crystal ball is probably good as mine, Brian. It's a hard one to answer, and I think for me, Don Mackay really encapsulates this well. It's quite a simple business, the feedlot game. You've got cattle coming in, cattle coming out, and you've got feed coming in. So if you get two out of those three right, and then the feedlot business works. Now, if any one of those things starts to become a real challenge, or even two of those things, then I think you've got some real issues, and that'll be the critical factors going forward. What happens in terms of global demand at the moment, it's looking very strong, but those markets are often temperamental. What happens with grain prices at the moment? They're quite soft, but that can change fairly quickly. We've got our harvest is only just commencing now. And what happens with feeder cattle prices, again, reliant on the weather. So there's a lot of uncertainties there, typical agriculture being highly variable with those types of things. So, it's very difficult to judge. But being in the feedlot industry, I suppose we're fortunate we've got some capacity there should those opportunities arise, and we've got the ability to quickly change.
Dougal, I was particularly impressed with the candidates on the Feedlotter of the Year. They were brilliant.
Are you talking about the Young Lot Feeder Achiever, or you're the Feedlot of the Year?
Young Lot,
yeah. I mean, we're really fortunate to have such a great training programs throughout, not only as an industry, but also throughout our individual feedlots. And we try and foster and encourage those leaders throughout the systems that we've got. And that actually augurs really well as an industry. A lot of those Young Lot Feeder Achievers are now Alpha councillors and Alpha board members. And if you look at the history of the award, Some have moved on to higher honours as well. So it's a great way to foster and develop industry leaders and bring them through to Alpha, but also as an industry to try and broaden the industry and ensure that you've got young people coming through the system.